Thank you, Chairman Bebb, and I now recognize the ranking member of the full committee, Ms. Lofgren, for her questions.
Well, thank you, Chairman Franklin. And as I noted in my opening statement, I am an original co-sponsor of the Bipartisan Weather Act reauthorization of 2025, and it has certainly been my hope that we can act quickly on it. The private sector is playing an increasingly significant role in weather forecasting. While NOAA is the bedrock of weather data collection, analysis, and provision, the private sector is developing new offerings that combine NOAA's infrastructure, products and services, weather data, incorporate advanced visualization techniques, and take advantage of machine learning. But challenges remain, including questions around data quality, continuity, open access, and cost effectiveness in the private sector. There's a growing need to ensure these partnerships support NOAA's mission without compromising NOAA's role as a trusted provider of free, reliable, and authoritative information. NOAA, as the federal partner, is the key component of the partnership, and it has the responsibility to gather the observations into forecasts, outlooks, and projections of future conditions to make it readily accessible and to use all this information for the national benefit. I will say that the testimony did cause me some concern. The question about the future of NOAA's weather infrastructure that Mr. Cavett described in his written testimony, and his assertion that the Weather Act of 2025 would help create that future was confusing. In the testimony, it says NOAA can maintain assets in space but could primarily shift to a commercially owned, commercially operated model where the agency manages data flows and forecast outputs for the public good. This radical new approach would free up additional resources. And that's actually, I helped write the bill, and that's not what the bill does. I think we need to clarify this so that we're all on the same page. Mr. Cavett did not cite a specific provision in the Weather Act to support that testimony, but let me just read the section that it runs contrary to the assertion. First, Section 301, Section 110, Satellite Architecture Planning. In general, the Undersecretary shall maintain a fleet of National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration space-based observation platforms that provide critical operations-focused data and information to support the mission of the administration to monitor the global environment in order to protect lives and property from extreme weather and other natural phenomena. Section 302 talks about the program establishment, the Undersecretary in coordination with the appropriate offices shall maintain a commercial data program, and that's the pilot project that supports the private sector efforts today. It goes further to say, however, that the Undersecretary may, not shall, may acquire satellite, ground-based, airborne, or marine-based in situ remote sensing and the like. So this is not a radical departure from the current policy. We do value the fact that the private sector is playing an important role. We do not deny that. But it is not going to supplant NOAA anytime in the near future. The bottom line of this bill is to ensure that NOAA has the capability to access, buy, and use commercially available data to augment its core observational capability, which is fundamentally a core mission-critical government function. We were reminded just last week of how critical the National Weather Service's forecasts are. Relying on the private sector for that primary role is not an option. Now, I look forward to sitting down with my friend Congressman Lucas to make sure he and I are on the same page. I think we are, but I just thought it was important to use my time here instead of asking questions to make sure that the intent of the bill is not misunderstood. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
At a recent committee hearing, Representative Zoe Lofgren, Democrat, California, used her time not to ask questions but to clarify what she saw as a serious misrepresentation of the Weather Act of 2025. Addressing Thomas Cavett, Vice President of Government Affairs and Strategy at Tomorrow.io, Lofgren pushed back on his written testimony, which suggested that the legislation would allow NOAA to primarily shift to a commercially owned, commercially operated model where the agency manages data flows and forecast outputs for the public good. Lofgren, who is an original co-sponsor of the Bipartisan Weather Act reauthorization, stressed that the bill was never designed to replace NOAA's central role in weather forecasting. She acknowledged the growing influence of the private sector in providing new tools, advanced visualization, and machine learning capabilities, but underscored that NOAA remains the nation's trusted and authoritative provider of weather information. According to her, partnerships with private companies must enhance, not supplant, NOAA's mission. She pointed directly to the text of the bill, noting provisions that require NOAA to maintain its fleet of space-based observation platforms as a core government function. While the law allows NOAA to acquire commercial data to supplement its capabilities, it does not mandate a wholesale shift to private ownership or operation. Lofgren emphasized that this was not a radical departure from existing policy but rather a continuation of efforts to balance public and private contributions in forecasting. Using the example of the National Weather Service's critical forecasts just the previous week, Lofgren reminded the committee that relying solely on private companies for weather prediction was not a viable option. She made clear that the bottom line of the legislation is to ensure NOAA has the authority and flexibility to use commercial data while retaining its fundamental mission to protect lives and property. She concluded by reiterating her intent to work closely with colleagues to prevent any misunderstanding of the bill's purpose.